sports are really important vehicles for relationships.
We have purpose. We have a why. We bring people together. We connect.
I feel like God is our greatest supporter and our greatest coach.
Live from Los Angeles, this is Rabbi Sherman and Rabbi on the Sidelines. This week, we are joined by an Israeli basketball legend and a legend in the world of college basketball from the family of the UCONN Huskies. Live from Amirim in the northern part of Israel, we welcome Doron Sheffer. Doron, it's so great to have you. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, except I told you before we came on that you ruined my dreams in 7th grade, the last time I saw you in person at the Carrier Dome. Actually, UConn was about to be the number one team in the country. I believe Kansas and I think North Carolina had just lost. And if you beat Syracuse, you would have been number one, and you did it. Do you remember that game?
I can recall something, it's been a while.
It's been a while, but it's on YouTube. But we are here to talk about basketball, but we're here to talk about sports and faith. This idea that sports is beyond just the basketball. And I know in your own life, you have taken that journey of faith from the courts to the Beit Knesset, to the community. So I want to go back to your life growing up in Israel as a secular Jew in Tel Aviv. Was there any Judaism faith in that piece, or was it all basketball? What did your life look like growing up on and off the basketball court?
Yeah, we had, I grew up, experiencing the holidays, like probably most kids in Israel, and celebrating Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, but and Passover, obviously, but not much more than that. I didn't had any too much connection with the religion world, hearing about the Shabbat or about Talmud Torah or praying or God. And actually, I was pretty much cynical about things that I couldn't understand with my mind, and God was one of them. And what changed my perspective or opened something in my mind was a very special experience at UConn. Mm-hmm. Actually, a few of them. One of them is a book that my mother sent me.
Right.
To Israel. I think it was one of your questions. Yeah.
What was that book that your mother sent you that maybe changed your life?
It's a book wrote James Garfield, if I'm not mistaken. The Celestial Prophecy. It's a spiritual journey of a woman, and I don't recall and remember much details of the book, but I do remember it touched me in a very deep place in my heart, in my soul, and let me feel a deep feeling of peace or serenity. And it was, I think, a point in my journey that something ignited inside of me, like it lit a fire. And I started from that point, not obviously slowly and step by step, but looking and searching for different kind of tools or inspiration people to try to, I told myself, if I have this good place in my heart that can live peacefully and in serenity with myself, with the world around me, I want to try and explore it and try to live like that, not in a single experience when I read the book, but to bring it more and more into the life. And I think that was the start of the spiritual journey that became the Tshuva journey that led me after a journey to India and Buddhism and South America and shamanism back to the roots, to Judaism.
So what about the basketball journey from 0 to 12? There's a beautiful clip that we're going to watch in a moment that basketball was your life. What was the entry into that? Was it your parents saying, Doron, you got to get on the court? Or was it you that just loved the ball? What was that love, and what was that journey?
It was a natural gift that but actually not only with the basketball game. I played also soccer and went to youth group. I was, it was a part of life. For me, I don't recall that I had any dreams about being a professional basketball player. I actually even prayed not to grow so tall because I always felt uncomfortable me being the highest student in class. So it was something for me. It was a big challenge to deal with all the attention I drew. And what changed my mind regarding basketball, because I thought to stop playing age of 16, 17, but then they invited me to the Israel youth national team, the best 12 players in Israel until the age of 16. And then for the first time in my life, I played in the European Championship against the best players in Europe. And I saw I compete against them, as equal. And that was before I put any energy and in the game extra, didn't come early, didn't leave late, just played on my basic natural talent and gift I got. And at that point I said, look, there's something special that I should try and utilize and see how far will I go with it. And that was the point I became much more serious and professional about the game.
So let's look at that, a little clip of your life from 0 to 12 and Israel realizing that Doron Sheffer existed.
היו היה, לפני שנים, ילד רזה וכחול עיניים שאהב לשחק בכדור. כל יום היה משחק עם חברים בשכונה וממשיך להתאמן לבדו עד שחשיכה בלעה את המגרש. השמועה על הילד המוכשר חצתה כבישים ומחוזות, ולא עבר זמן רב לפני שעסקני כדורסל התחילו לפקוד את בית משפחת שפר. ב-12 השנים הבאות, המשחק שאהב השתלט על חייו והדחק הצידה את כל השאר. בגיל 18, דורון עזב את הבית לשחק כדורסל עם הגדולים. מסביב לאולם בכפר בלום נפלו טילים בשם קטיושה, והביצועים של נסיך הכדורסל החדש היו אחת הנחמות הבודדות של הצפון.
I want to ask you two questions about that. First, the music, actually, Ana B'Koach, the mystical psalm that we say before Kabbalat Shabbat. I love that is the music to your life story and that spiritual journey. But also the second part, right? You're 18, you go to Kfar Blum up north, and basketball is a distraction to what's going on in the world with Katyusha rockets falling. How do those go hand in hand? When you're playing at UConn, we're not worried about rockets falling. But in Israel, what is the national feeling of basketball that allows people to have an escape sometimes?
Yes, when life sometimes become intense, and so obviously playing the game or watching the game can be a kind of escape, or help people get their mind busy with other things. Yes, it was a challenge time. The Jewish people, the Israeli people, unfortunately, we know a lot about wars during the years in the history, and we hope and we pray that the peaceful times are coming and ahead of us.
And you went to the army, I believe, before UConn. Is that correct?
No, before UConn, yes.
Right. UConn. So you were not a typical 18-year-old freshman who went to a prep school in New Hampshire and then showed up at UConn. What did that army experience in the Tzahal, how did that, when you get to UConn and you're playing with Ray Allen, Daniel Marshall, Kevin Ollie, right? Are you sharing that experience of, hey guys, for the last 3 years, I was in the Israeli army protecting the Jewish state? Did that ever come up in conversation with your new UConn teammates?
It didn't, because I actually didn't make an ordinary service army, because I was an excellent basketball player, a national team basketball player, and because of that, I got special condition in the army. So I don't have many things to share about it. Most of the time, I played basketball. So I gained the experience, but I wasn't that typical soldier protecting Israel, but representing them on the basketball court.
And so then take us to when you realized that you could actually play college basketball. Not many kids in this country of America. I live down the street from Pauley Pavilion. Not many kids are going to be able to play for UCLA, even though every child sitting in my office who wants to be a bar mitzvah, I say, what do you want to be? I want to be the next Doron Sheffer. Take us through the recruiting. Was it only UConn and Coach Calhoun that recruited you? Were there other colleges? How did you make that decision that UConn was the right one for you?
Yeah, like I said, after Nadav NFL, so the market to Israel got opened, and really coaches started to be interested on what's happening overseas and in Israel, especially obviously Calhoun and Connecticut, but also other universities. I was recruited by 5 of them, and I came to make a tour in the U.S. to visit. It was Miami with the Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, now he's in Florida State. Yep.
Yeah, it was Don Chaney in Philly.
At Temple.
Temple, yeah. Oh. And then in Kentucky with Rick Pitino.
Really?
In Seton with PJ Carlissimo and Calhoun with Connecticut. And actually, my first priority was Kentucky. And, we make plans, and God has other plans for us a lot of times. And, something didn't work out with the exams, and I find myself at UConn. And, eventually there was those years became very, very special and successful and on many ways.
So what was it like showing up on a college campus in America? This is not Hebrew University, Ben Gurion University. Those are amazing. All of our Jewish students go over there. But you show up at UConn, it's not the largest Jewish community. How did that feel? And when did you realize that not only I can play, but I'm going to lead this team to the #1 ranking in the country?
Yeah, it took step by step, many times when I make a change in my life, a lot of time, it takes time until I adjust, sometimes faster, sometimes less, but I remember the first month, it was like a cultural shock, many students younger than me, not only on the age, but also, with the sharing common conversation, not necessarily I find with many students, and then I find myself, a lot with either, teammates, but also either foreign students or older than me or my age, and so slowly I felt more and more comfortable, with the food, with the habits, with all the changes. And I think, a month after I came, even before the league starts, I felt that I made the right decision. I felt home in a way that, there was a Jewish family that helped me, the Zan family, they took me like a son, and people helped me to feel at home, and I felt it was really a right thing to do, not only because of basketball, but because of other things. And I think maybe the best thing I took from that, other than obviously many great people and friends, and like I said, it's a Husky family until today. I can, when I come to the US, I talk, we visit, we see each other at times. But something very special that happened to me during my time, that was the realization that my home is Israel. Sometimes you have to get far away from something to appreciate it more, and something that knew that this is not my home, and my home is in Israel. And it was clear for me after my career basketball in the US, I'm coming back home.
So we're going to look at one of the highlights. Dick Vitale, an amazing college basketball announcer, when he sees a PTPer, a primetime player, he says it loud and proud, and this is from a game at UConn against Syracuse.
Knight. We just talked about Knight, you and I, off the air, how he's become such an improved player. You mentioned hysteria. It's H squared here. Hoops hysteria. Sheffer! Yes, hey! He looks at the three and knocks it down. Doron Sheffer! It's wacky time!
What does that feel like when you have 20,000 people screaming your name? That Doron Sheffer, baby, it's the Iceman. What's that like?
It's a big challenge not to get lost in this hype, not to get lost when they cheer you, and not to get lost when they boo you. It's there's two sides to this coin. Fortunately, we most of the time won games, so they were cheering. But it's a big challenge. It's not an easy challenge at all, and we see great players and adult person that a lot of time find it's very difficult to stay balanced in this situation. A lot of attention, a lot of like you said, 20,000 people in the arena, and a lot more back home. I think that was the real challenge game in the basketball. Yeah, to the game of life, I call it today, to stay balanced and not to get lost, not with a cheer, and start to get feel how do you say in English, arrogant, arrogant about it. And on the other side, when you lose, not to forget, to take it in the right perspective, and always remember that win or lose, it's important how you deal with it, and not necessarily, sometimes you can lose, you can win the game, but you lose a bigger game. If you behave selfish and you give bad example, and sometimes you lose and you win because you lose with dignity, and you stay, you shake hand. So there's a bigger game that we play. We have to remember it and remind ourselves and others in this basketball game, because it's easy to get lost on the win and lose or issue.
Actually, I think it reminds us of Moshe Rabbeinu Ishanav, a humble person, that he was at the highest of Har Sinai and Parshat Yitro that we'll read this week, but also at the lowest of Avadim Hayinu, and we were slaves in Egypt as well. And he was able to ride the roller coaster while also staying calm and, in essence, leading a team to the promised land. Something with Coach Calhoun that maybe. What was a lesson that he taught you? We see him screaming on TV, Hall of Fame coach. What's a lesson that you saw behind the scenes that we all should know about Coach Jim Calhoun?
Yeah, I think first of all, he really demand 100% from himself, and he could, and because of that, he could demand it from others. And he really, in that aspect, arise this point, of if I play basketball, give 100% of myself. I think I took it to another level with him, and something that a story I tell. I also wrote it in one of my books. That everybody talk a lot about how intense he was, and sometimes screaming, and obviously was super professional and demanding from himself, from the players. So it's a muscular side of him, aggressive, but I remember that every time we went to games, we used to go by the bus together, and he was sitting in the first row, and his wife Pat near the window, and he was sitting near her. And as soon as the bus stopped, we arrived to the hotel or to the arena. He used to stand up and give his wife room to let down. All the players wait behind him, like a double pick. His wife is going, and you learn a lesson of Ahavta l'ra'ayatcha kamocha. There's the Ahavta l'ra'acha, but the first re'ah is ra'ayatcha. As it was a great lesson in a very gentle way, a very sensitive way, and that's a beautiful part of coach that not maybe a lot of people know.
I just want to translate that for our viewers. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, to love your neighbor as yourself, but really ve'ahavta l're'atcha, to love actually your best friend, which is your wife, as you would love yourself. I don't know if Dick Vitale has ever said ve'ahavta l're'acha kamocha on ESPN, but hopefully in the next, when Calhoun has his next induction. That's a beautiful, beautiful lesson. And I think it's actually what you wrote, that basketball is a teacher of life. It's not just a teacher of the physical. I want to go to a little more of your personal journey that I think maybe a lot of people don't know after they saw you play UConn and Maccabi Tel Aviv and Kfar Blum, your journey through cancer and your journey through illness, which also Coach Calhoun went through that himself. What was that journey like, and how did you find the emunah and the deep faith to come through that stronger today than you were before?
Yeah, it was really one of the most intense experience in my life, and I was 30 years old when they discovered a tumor, mamir. How do you say it?
Was it testicular cancer?
Testicle cancer.
Right.
There's benign and
the
yes.
malignant.
Malignant. Yes, and at the beginning, my instinct was it didn't spread in my body. It could, but it didn't at that point, the diagnosis. And at the first part, when I reacted, I said, okay, let's make an operation and come back and live my life, to my routine. And then I said, after that I said, if I wouldn't take responsibility of what caused this cancer to become in my body, and change bad habits, if they were a part of my lifestyle that brought me to be ill and get out of balance. So even if I take the tumor out, and I won't change my bad habits, or take responsibility, it can come again, and even bigger or stronger. You hear many people that went through cancer one time and then it comes back again and again. And what I felt very strongly, that I have to go to the root of the story. It's like a tree. If the roots of the tree are sick, no matter how much you take care of the branch or the fruit, they're still gonna grow up sick, because the root is sick. We have to go to the roots. The roots is it's. I started what I say, a training camp of my life, that I'm searching for ways and tools, and study how can I live my life in a more happy, more balanced, more healthy way, in all aspects, also the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So I started to learn about nutrition. At that point, I didn't eat healthy nutrition, and I started to see what I eat and how much, and if it's organic later on, if it's kosher. Then also, about physical activity, to do it in the right measurement, swimming or yoga, or running, or sweating good, being in the nature, to see how good it's to be outside, and with in the beach, or in the forest, or places with good air and good vibration, that will help to be more balanced. Also about the spiritual aspect, learning and studying and seeing how the being nervous, or the fears, or the jealousy, they're all cause the body to be sick eventually, other than rather than the being happy, being loving, being giving. And today the science can prove it by, you probably know the term, in the clown doctor, in hospitals.
Yeah, right.
Clown doctor, how do you call it in the US?
Like clown therapy. Yeah, the lights
Clown
on you.
therapy. They come to get
Right.
the sick people smiling and laughing, and see how it affects the body, and get the energy flowing. So there's a lot to do with our mind and our body and our soul, and also getting stronger with faith. This was before me getting to a yeshiva and getting to the world of the Torah, but I was at that point deep in my spiritual journey, and I got stronger and stronger in faith, that there is, I didn't call it the Kadosh Baruch Hu, but that there's one source to all of this life or existence, and everything that's happened is happening for good, and it gave me strength to deal with this disease, to pray for help, to pray for guidance, to pray for the courage to take responsibility and change my life. And eventually this cancer, this disease, this curse became a blessing, because when I came out of it, eventually I also made the operation, and I combined all those way, alternative and conventional, and I it's like was being born again, and living my life until today in a much more healthy, balanced, happy, and aware way, and taking responsibility on my life and my choices, what I choose.
Livracha v'lo liklala, for a blessing and not for a curse. I want to go back to the UConn story for a moment, based on a faith story and something that your backcourt teammate Ray Allen has done over the last couple of years, and that has been an ambassador for the education of the Shoah. Right, Ray Allen, UConn Husky fan, or UConn Husky legend, Hall of Fame, Boston Celtics, one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. But in fact, he took a trip to Auschwitz, to Poland, and then he served on the board of the United States Holocaust Museum. Have you ever spoken to him over the last number of years about his journey in really educating the world about the Holocaust and the importance of the Jewish story.
Yes, I actually also spoke with him, and really regarding this issue especially was very, very for me inspiring and touching to hear that. Really, I read in one paper article about him that he said when he came to Auschwitz, I think he really felt that he was a reincarnation of somebody in the Holocaust. It's really a very unique story. And very, very, like I said, inspiring. And Ray was always he had an extra value in him, not only a player. He was very always in class, always.
Wow.
Atzili, how do you say Atzil? Atzil. You know what's Atzil? Atzilut. It's how do you say?
I'm not sure.
Atzil is like in the palaces or in the Atzilut. It's like there's a world of Atzilut.
Like a noble.
Noble.
Yeah.
He was in a noble way, yeah, very classy way, very noble way. As successful he also was humble, and a special guy to go with him this journey. And I believe we're gonna meet in the future again.
Amen. Well, hopefully you'll come here to LA and we can do that together.
No,
Here's a quick.
Or you come to Israel.
Amen. Here's a quick clip of you and Ray Allen actually Madison Square Garden. I want to talk about this for just a moment.
Ties it at 4. Reeves did a great job with that rebound. Sheffer weaves and delivers tonight. Travis Knight, TK down the lane. Sheffer with the great look. Two-man game.
What was it like playing in Madison Square Garden? We like to say it's the Mecca, but today we'll call it the Yerushalayim of basketball. Mm-hmm. Madison Square Garden, where everything happens. Take us through that. And the Big East tournament. The Big East it was the beast back then. What was it like representing UConn? And also, I want to ask you, what was it like representing Israel? Because today, if you were on a college campus in your profile with being an Israeli athlete, do you think it would have maybe gotten a little more pushback with BDS and anti-Semitism than the love that you received back then?
We can never know, but obviously things are changing, and as well the reactions and the welcome or not. Back then, I understood that people expect me or see me as a representative and an ambassador. But in my eyes, I just want to play the game, simple, enjoy, try to win, do my job, do my best. And it was, I think it put on me pressure that was hard for me to deal. And during the year, especially since I retired, but when I started my spiritual journey in the Tshuva and more when I'm getting deeper in the world of the Tshuva, is the understanding that we are a global village, and we have all of us. We have responsibility, and we affect each other to the good or to the bad. And obviously, when you are a famous person, that a lot of eyes of kids, of youth, of people are looking up to you. You have extra reason a lot of extra reason to take even more responsibility. But this started later on in my life, in my career, in my life. At that point, I just wanted to play the game, do my best. Didn't see myself in any way as an ambassador, although people, expected me to act like that. I hope I did a good job.
You definitely did a good job. I know, as I said earlier, right, as a child, the Jewish community knew that when you came to town, right, that we were going to go, obviously, to cheer against you. That was important, remember? But really to cheer for you, because we knew what you represented for our community, that we could not just reach that level of physicality, but also reach that level of ambassadorship for the Jewish people and the people of Israel as well. What does your spiritual life look like today in terms of tefillah, Talmud Torah, right? Let's go early back on. You said all of those things were not even part of your life, part of your consciousness, but today, how does that blend look?
It's the Torah is bring a lot of spread a lot of light into my life, on my life, into my life. Really helped me live my life in a balanced way, connect a lot of parts of my life from the past to the future to the present, with the basketball and the Buddhism and the shamanism and the family life and the and the tefillah and the Torah all comes together. These are sources, the main sources today in my life, the studying of the Torah and the tefillah to help me to be a better person, better values, better courtesy. That for me, this is the most important part in the journey and the biggest indication that we're really doing a good and work in the spiritual journey in the world of the tshuva, that we're becoming better people, more patient, more helping each other, more loving, more caring, more humble, and obviously it should reflect with the relationship first of all with our wives, with our kids, with our parents and neighbors and all the world. And I think the Torah helps me to become a better person, and it's a big privilege that we're fortunate to have Torah that we can study and learn and over again and find a lot of diamonds and for our
Diamonds
lives.
in the rough. Your autobiography, I believe it's called Aneni, which comes from the Tehillim, the Psalms. Take us through why you called it Aneni and what that means within your life.
And then it's from the Psalms, King David, Mina Metzar Karati Ya Anani
Anani v'merchav, yeah.
So he was under stress, under pressure, in a narrow place, in the spirit, in the mental part, and the physical part, and he prayed to God, and God answered him. Anani, he answered him, and I think in my story there's a lot of narrow bridges that I go through, and I pray to God, and He answers all the time. It's interesting that most of the time Anani shows up in Tehillim. It's Anani. It's in the future tense, and Anani is in the past. So I thought about it that Anani in the past. It means that the answers for a question are already there. We just have to reveal them. Okay, rather than what will happen, it's already happened. Now we have to discover what happened, and this is a new way to look at the things. And today, when I see my career looking, back, and when I wrote the book, especially, it shed light on the story. It's amazing to see how God prophecy is all over the way. When you say you don't know who will win, who will lose, but then you see it like nobody can write this story better. Getting all the pieces in the puzzle get together, that it's really fascinating to watch and see and get the lesson for that to get stronger in faith and emunah.
It's one of my favorite Tehillim. In fact, I focus on the first part, the Min HaMeitzar, and Meitzar from the narrow straits, but also Mitzrayim. The Mitzrayim is not just this physical place, but rather it's the spiritual distresses that we will all face. I mean, we're in a pandemic, and whenever this ends, we don't know. But Anani, I love that, right? The answer is there. Now let's begin to really look for that.
See what happened already. Yeah, it's already happened. Just we have to reveal it, and it makes it, interesting and curious about it, but with a lot of faith that good will reveal.
So one more basketball question and one more faith question. If the audience has any questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll maybe ask Doron a question as well. Regards from Tamir Goodman. He loves you, Doron. Hopefully you'll see each other in the state of Israel. The basketball piece that you did something pretty amazing. You went to a small team up north, and you ended up beating Maccabi Tel Aviv. And you beat all the Tel Aviv teams, but then you actually go and play for them. Tell us a little about the Maccabi Tel Aviv experience and what that means to the land of Israel within the EuroLeague and the greater sports world.
Yeah, Maccabi is the best team ever by far in Israel, with a very special tradition, with a very image of winning is not everything, but it's the only thing. Very competitive, and it was very intense years. I think my time there, obviously a very special experience and special moments on the court, off the court. But I think mainly what it did for me, the time in Maccabi, it accelerated my spiritual journey because of it was so intense. So I went through different kind of crises and narrow bridges, mina metzar, and that ignited my fire to search for answers. What's happening, and how can I find peace and balance in this intense world. And I think it helped me eventually become a better player, but mainly a better human being, a better person. Yeah, by starting the search and getting deeper and deeper in my journey.
So, what's next on your journey in the sports world or in the faith world?
So in the sports world, in the last years since I retired more than 15 years ago, I mainly focus on working with kids, youth, also adults, but taking the game as an educational, therapeutic tool, and teaching through the game about life, not the competitive part, but rather the educational part, and making a tshuva for the game. The Rambam 18 years ago talked about physical activity as something very important, as a part of working God, because you have to be healthy and happy, but on the right measure, not in the way that we do it today in the professional world, that it's not healthy because it's too intense. And when the body needs to rest, a lot of time they take injections or pills, and until the body collapses. And there's many stories that people suffer for years, and that's not healthy. That's not balance. And all the running about this after the score and the trophy, a lot of time cause a lot negative things, between fans or players or whatever. So today it's doing it from the healthy part, from the balance part, and through that I quote a lot of time Michael Jordan. He said the game was a visa for the fans, and I feel that very much, that through the game I get to meet a lot of people from different ages, different background, that invite me to lecture, to make basketball clinic, that read my books. And now I try to give them something that I believe is much more important than a 3-point basket I score in the game, or a trophy I won. It's something much more deeper and important for life. So this is what I do, especially with the game. And like I said, I study Torah and praying and trying to combine all the world. Torah for me is life. It's not about only synagogue or studying. It's mainly living the Torah and bringing it to the marriage world, to the as a father, as a son, as a basketball. When I work, combining the world, the spiritual with the material, the kodesh with the chol. And this is the Torah Chaim. It's getting everything together, one God, and do it. Win-win situation. There's no losers in this game. It's a much bigger game, important game, and everybody can win and should win in this game.
Michael Jordan, that's in Masechet Brachot Daf Kaf Gimel, right?
Michael Yarden.
That's amazing. Usually the last question I ask is there faith in the sports world? And you didn't only answer that, but you explained how, not that it's in it, but actually the interwovenness. So my last question.
If it's in us, it's everywhere.
Yes.
And if it's not in us, it's nowhere. You can be in synagogue without faith. You can pray 3 times a day without faith.
Yes.
If it's here, in the body and mind and so it's everywhere.
So the last question, Doron, and just thank you for your time. But what is the message to our youth, right? Every child that sits right here and says, I want to be a professional basketball player. What's the message to them, and what's the message to their parents?
I talked about values and education and courtesy, and those for me the biggest goal in my life, and this is what my message maybe for the youth and for everybody, to make sure no matter what they do, play basketball, somebody works with computers, somebody is studying Torah, somebody I don't know in Hollywood, but make sure to be a mensch. To be a mensch along the way, to make sure that you're becoming a better person in everything you do in life, and this will bring blessing in everything. When you do it with the right intention, you don't forget the journey along the way, and you do good deeds. So these are victories. No matter what the score would be, you already won a bigger game that will stay forever. Nitzachon, it's from the root netzach. Netzach is forever, because Chazal came to tell us that a true victory will stay forever, and that's a good deed. Torah, mitzvot, and maasim tovim. So I wish the kids, you, the parents, and all of us, myself also, so we'll have a lot of Torah, mitzvot, and maasim tovim.
Amen. In fact, that was the bracha that I just gave the bat mitzvah this morning at Shacharit, that she will be blessed with the Shekhinah and God's presence of Torah, Chuppah, and Masim Tovim. Doron Sheffer, it is an amazing pleasure to meet you. We hope that when things calm down, you'll come over to the United States and we will have the opportunity to do Torah, mitzvot, and Masim Tovim, maybe Chuppah one day for somebody, but be part of our Sinai Temple basketball camp, and God willing, we will be with you in Amirim, in the land of Israel, as you will show us that combination.
Everybody come to the big celebration in Israel, We're waiting for everybody to come together.
Amen. So Doron Sheffer, UCONN Huskies, Maccabi Tel Aviv, but as he just said, and Rabbi on the Sidelines, intersection of sports and faith, the epitome of a mensch, truly of a good person. Doron, Toda Rabah, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.